With the selection committee having made their selections, it is officially time to look at March Madness. It is officially time to break out the brackets and see who's going to do what, who's going to go where, who's going to play who. Now, of course, the odds of getting the complete March Madness bracket 100% true is almost impossible. The odds are the same as winning the lottery. It's like 1 in 8 gazillion. But there's no harm in looking at the teams, saying who's better, saying who should win. Of course, since every single game is a one-off, winner take all each round, it's going to be up in the air. Who knows who's going to win what, when, where, why, and how. But let's look at these first 4 teams that nobody really gives a damn. Texas Southern against Texas A&M CC. I don't even know who that is. Why is there a Texas A&M CC? Is that like Christian church? We're going to go with Texas Southern. I don't know what just happened here. I'm trying to make my picks. Apparently, I'm not allowed to make picks. So, you know what? We're going to go over to ESPN and make our picks there. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So where is the first 4? Can I pick the first 4? You're not going to let me. Okay, they don't even care. So we're just going to skip right on through that. Texas Southern versus Texas Christian whatever. Kansas is, of course, going to win that. Who's the other first 4 team? I saw Notre Dame. I actually like them. I like one of the kids. I forget his name. Blake Wesley was a really solid player for them. Other guy, Nate Leshevsky, wasn't very good. Anyway, where is the North? You know, we're just going to go one by one. Of course, Gonzaga versus Georgia State. Gonzaga being a number 1 seed. I'm upset because Gonzaga always plays really crappy teams. You look at their schedule. They play crap teams like St. Mary's and freaking San Francisco a million times. So the record is always like, oh my God, they have 50 wins and 2 losses. Yeah, well, that's going to happen when you play Merrimack in Northern Arizona, North Alabama, and Loyola Marymount a million freaking times. Like Pepperdine, Santa Clara, Pacific always show up on these rosters and these schedules, and it's like, oh, they're so good. Yeah, because you played Portland, all right? Who did they lose to? They lost to St. Mary's. Jeez. So I'm not fully impressed with Gonzaga. I don't like the way that they constructed their roster. I like Chet Holmgren. I don't like him alongside Drew Timme. That said, they're probably going to beat Georgia State by like a million. Boise versus Memphis State, Boise State. I like what's going on there in Memphis. You know what? I'm going to take it. Yukon versus New Mexico. Going to go with the favorite. Arkansas versus Vermont. I don't even know who's on Vermont. Going to go Arkansas. Alabama versus the Rutgers and Notre Dame. That was one of the games that I wanted to pick, but I guess they won't let me. I like Notre Dame over the Rutgers, but I like Alabama and J.D. Davidson taking out my boy Blake Wesley. Texas Tech versus Montana State, going with the favorites. Michigan versus Davidson. I don't see a Steph Curry-like reemergence. Michigan State, steady as she goes. Duke versus CSU Fullerton. Is this a joke? On the other side, in the South, Arizona going to be a very good team this year against, I don't even know what's going on here. Who's Burston versus Worston? Wright State versus Bryant. Okay, that's going to be a joke. Seton Hall versus TCU. I'm going to go TCU here. Houston versus University of Alabama, Birmingham. I'm not a big fan of Houston, but they're going to be much better than UAB. Illinois versus Chattanooga. I'm going to go Illinois there. Colorado State versus Michigan. I might pick the upset here with Michigan, pending what's going on with head coach Juwan Howard. He's been a little bit of a, we'll call it hot button issue. So we'll say they win the first round. They rally around their coach. They got some good players on the roster, and they overcome being an 11th seed. Tennessee versus Longwood. I like Tennessee. Ohio State versus Loyola Chicago. Ohio State is one of those teams that's going to be sneaky good for me. EJ Liddell and Malachi Branham are pretty good. As for the next one, Villanova versus Delaware, going to go with Villanova. Let's move on down to the East. Baylor, once again, the number 1 seed, the defending NCAA champions, going to take out the 16 seed. No arguments there. UNC versus Marquette. I like Marquette, but we're going to have to go with UNC just because of their history. St. Mary's versus Wyoming. And is that Iowa? Idaho? Indiana. Wow, Indiana's all the way down there. Kind of brutal, but we're going to go with St. Mary's. UCLA versus Akron. I don't like UCLA. A lot of people think their players are good in college. They like Johnny Juzang. They like the other kid with the really scruffy hair. I think they're going to get maybe to the Elite 8 and then fall out. I'm not a huge fan of those guys. They're either really bad on offense or really bad on defense. They have these severe limitations. Texas versus Virginia Tech going Texas. Purdue is going to be one of my major picks. I think I might have them to win it all. Murray State versus San Francisco. How is San Francisco even here? And Kentucky is going to dominate St. Peter's. Looking at the other side, we already picked Kansas over Tucson. San Diego State versus Creighton. I'm going to go Creighton here. Iowa versus Richmond. I like what's going on in Iowa. Providence versus South Dakota State. Are you kidding me? LSU versus Iowa State. Are you kidding me? Wisconsin over Colgate. USC and Miami. Might be interesting, but I like USC. Maybe Isaiah Mobley's going to have some fun down there. Auburn versus Jayville State. What is Jayville State? Jacksonville State? Interesting. Apparently, they play basketball. So now we are in the round of 32, finally getting a little more competitive of a series. Gonzaga is going to dominate Memphis. I'm sorry. Yukon versus Arkansas, also known as Arkansas. I'm going to go Yukon. Alabama versus Texas Tech. Really like what Texas Tech is doing. Terrence Shannon Jr. came back for his senior year to make this run. But I'm a huge fan of J.D. Davidson. Big fan of what he's done so far this season. It's the calming effect that he has on his team. He's one of the top point guards that are coming out of this draft class. I'm going to have to roll with Alabama. Roll Tide. Michigan State versus Duke is going to be a really fun matchup. I'm going to have to go with Duke. I like Paulo Banchero. I don't love him as a prospect, but he's a really dominant player out there for Duke. Arizona versus TCU. Arizona is probably going to be coming out of the South, if I'm being 100% honest. Houston versus Illinois. I'm going to go Illinois. Michigan versus Tennessee. Got to go with Tennessee, even though they don't have their guys Keon Johnson and Jaden Springer. That's right, on the 76ers. But Tennessee, still a very prominent team. Ohio State versus Villanova. Like I said, I really like Ohio State. I like EJ Liddell. He's probably one of my favorite college players. Don't think he's going to translate to the pros just because of his size, but he's great energy for the team. Moving on to the Midwest, taking Kansas over Creighton. Kansas is going to roll. Iowa versus Providence, going to have to go with Iowa. I know. LSU versus Wisconsin. Now, this is interesting. Now, a lot of people are high on Tari Eason. I've seen him play. I'm supremely underimpressed. Meanwhile, I've seen Johnny Davis play, and I'm a huge fan of him. Big buyer of Johnny Davis stock. The dude is a baller, and I think he's going to carry Wisconsin over LSU. USC versus Auburn. Got to go with Auburn. I mean, they have probably the best player in this draft class. One of the best players, if not the best player right now in the NCAA. I know people say, I don't know, True Timmy, but go screw yourself. Baylor versus North Carolina, got to roll with the number 1 seed. St. Mary's versus UCLA, again, going with Johnny Juzang and the boys, but I think they're going to get ousted by Baylor. You know, let's just make that selection right now. Texas versus Purdue, all in on Purdue. Murray State versus Kentucky. This is going to be a really fun matchup once Kentucky beats Murray State. No offense to John Morant's old school, but Kentucky versus Purdue, I would tune in and watch the full game. That is going to be fun, but I'm rolling with Purdue all the way. And just a little spoiler right here, Purdue is going to go to the Final Four. Kansas versus Iowa, got to roll with the 1 seed. Wisconsin versus Auburn, got to roll with Jabari Smith. Now, maybe I'm rolling a little bit too heavy on some of the top seeds with the top players that are coming out of the draft. Kansas versus Auburn, we'll come back to that. Gonzaga versus Yukon, going to go with Gonzaga. And Alabama versus Duke is also going to be a really fun game. Mike Krzyzewski, coaching for his life, coaching for his career, going to end up in the Sweet 16 one more time. Or is this the Elite 8? Arizona versus Illinois. Big fan of the whole Arizona squad. And Tennessee versus Ohio State. Once again, I'm rolling. I think Ohio State's going to be hot. I think they're going to be a Cinderella team. But they're going to meet their match, meet their maker versus Arizona. Huge fan of Benedict Mathurin and the boys. Gonzaga versus Duke, the rematch. We've seen it once. I'll see it again. Duke outplays Gonzaga one more time to make it to the Final Four. The last team we need to pick is Kansas versus Auburn. And while Auburn does have that bad man that is Jabari Smith, Kansas has a whole bunch of good older guys that have been there for a while, led by Ochai Agbaji, Alan Flanagan. And the thing about the college basketball tournament is that you pick the guys that have been around for a while, the transfers, the seniors, the juniors. Those are the players that are going to lead you to the promised land for college basketball. So even though I like Jabari Smith better, Kansas is going to take over Auburn and win, advancing on to the Final Four. So we're going to have a 1-1-2-3 Duke versus Purdue, Kansas versus Arizona matchup. Now, who do I like here? I got to go with Purdue. I think the Zach Edey, Jaden Ivey combo is lethal. It's unstoppable. They were supremely rolling at the beginning of the season. As for Arizona versus Kansas, that's going to be a tough one. I really like what's going on out there in Arizona. I really like what's going on in Kansas. Do I like the Ochai Agbaji in the entire Kansas system? Do I like Benedict Mathurin and Christian Koloko combo better? I'm going to roll with Arizona. I think Benedict Mathurin steps up, brings Arizona to the promised land. And of course, I'm going to go with Purdue. I'm just a huge fan of everything that's going on there. And call me biased, call me whatever, call me a Jaden Ivey lover. I have Purdue rolling all the way. Pick the final score. I don't know. 69 to 65. There you go. Should I submit my picks? I don't know how to do that. What is this? Enter. I'm going to get a car. Sweet. Give me a car. I don't have an account. I'm sorry. Well, that's going to do it for the picks for this NCAA tournament. I know I was a little zoomed out. So we're going to have a Final Four of Arizona, Kansas, Duke versus Purdue. Let me know what your bracket looks like. What are your thoughts? What you agree with? What you disagree with? And I'll catch you in the next one. And we'll see who becomes the NCAA champions.